Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to look at shutter speed. We're going to look at what it does, what effect it has on your pictures, what long shutter speed is, what short shutter speed is, why would you want to use long shutter speed and why you'd want to use short shutter speed. Now, to simply say it, shutter speed is the length of time the camera shutter is open, which exposes the camera sensor to light. To say it even more simply, it's how long your camera spends taking the photo, although that's a bit of an oversimplification. In the average DSLR camera, this can take from a max of around 30 seconds to even on the fastest speed 1/1000th of a second. As you can imagine, this is quite fast. Now, long shutter speed means you're exposing your sensor for quite a significant period of time. This means you will face motion blur if your shutter speed is long. Moving subjects in your photo will be blurred along the direction of motion. You'll see this effect used in, for example, car advertisements, where the moving wheels will be blurred to indicate the speed to the viewer. Long shutter speeds are also used to photograph objects at night or in a dark environment, because it lets a lot of light in, which means even in a dark environment, you can still clearly see the object you're trying to photograph. Now, you can also capture the light lines of cars, which, as you can see on the screen right now, you most likely have seen before, be it in a picture online, be it in a picture in real life, be it even in a painting where a picture like that was taken as an example. You can also use it to photograph the Milky Way or the motion of rivers or waterfalls in a landscape photo. However, opposite to a long shutter speed, there's of course a fast shutter speed, which means instead of working with a whole motion blurred in, it actually freezes objects in time. Which kind of objects? Birds, cars, people, or any other movement, quite frankly. However, as you can imagine, this means it doesn't let a lot of lighting because the sensor is going to be exposed maybe 1/1000th of a second, 1/2000th of a second. This moves us on to the next subject of shutter speed. Exposure, which relates to the brightness of an image. As I already told you, if you use a long shutter speed, your camera sensor gets a lot of light and the resulting photo will be quite bright. By using a quick shutter speed, your camera sensor is only exposed to a small fraction of light, resulting in a darker photo. However, shutter speed is not the only variable that affects the brightness of an image, as you also have your aperture and your ISO, so you have quite a bit of flexibility when working with the shutter speed, but you need to be very careful with the other settings on your camera, but that's a subject for another video. For many people, the main reason to change their shutter speed is often to work with the brightness or darkness, making sure that a photo in the day isn't overexposed and making sure that the photo at night is still clearly visible. Of course, motion blur or catching things in movement, freezing them in time are also very important, but most often you will work with your shutter speed to work with the light in. Now, another concern that is with long shutter speeds is motion. And no, not the kind of motion we are capturing, but the motion on your camera itself. If you're holding your camera when you're taking a 5-second picture, it's gonna turn out really weird, because even if you have the most steady hands, there's gonna be movement. If you work with above 1 second, you're gonna want a tripod, and that's stretching it. 1 second is already quite tricky in a picture. On average, from 1/100th of a second to 1 second, you want to be very careful. You're gonna have some handshake most likely if you're not using a tripod, especially the closer you get to the 1 second mark. Everything under that, so 1/500, 1/800, 1/1000th of a second, you will not face camera shakage, except if you're moving it around on purpose, of course. However, if you're getting close to 1 second and everything above that, use a tripod. Some lenses do have features into the lens, stabilization of the movement, which, you know, is going to make sure that even if you take a 5-second picture in your hands, it's still going to work out. However, the chance that you own a lens like this, if you're watching this video, it isn't that big, except if you're especially looking for a lens like that when you are buying your camera. But the rule of thumb normally is, if you're getting close and above 1 second, use a tripod. Now, how do you find your shutter speed? Well, this is actually really easy. If your camera has the top part, top screen, then look in your top left corner. Like you see in this image, you should find it there. If you can't find it there, if you don't have a top part, then I'd recommend you to just take a quick Google on exactly where on your camera you can find it. This is camera specific, however, like I said, on most cameras it will work pretty much the same like I just showed you. Now, if you're not specifically looking to capture something with motion blur or capturing something where you want to freeze motion in time, I'd recommend you to just let your camera choose what shutter speed to use for you. Most modern cameras are pretty good at this. Of course, if you are shooting in a certain environment where the lighting is pretty much the same old, you can just set your own shutter speed. However, be careful with the other options like ISO and aperture. Can't talk about that in another video, but your camera is pretty capable of choosing the right shutter speed most of the times if you're not capturing something specific. I hope this video helped you. If it did, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and comment if you want to see something else specifically, or if you're just very excited to see me talking about the ISO and aperture, which are very, very important for the lighting. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.